Hello and welcome to the Shaw Local Bears Insider Podcast. I am Michael Dwojak here with the Northwest Herald's Joe Aguilar as we break down another week of Bears training camp. We're recording this on Monday, August. Joe, what day is it? I don't even know what day it is anymore. We're doing this on Monday, and it's I just don't know what day it is at this point. I feel like the days kind of get lost, but it's Monday. It's August 18th. We are two preseason games into this preseason training camp, whatever you want to call it, two joint practices into things. And, Joe, I know it's a preseason game against the Buffalo Bills where they had most of their backups in. They didn't play too much, but I feel like any 38-0 blowout win is always a good win.
Oh, yeah. Hey, I mean, we don't know what the regular season's going to hold, but at least for one night, it was really fun to watch Bears football. And like you said, and now I'm going to say, and we'll keep saying it, it was only a preseason game, but it certainly was fun to watch Bears football for 3 hours. Or was it longer? Because the first half took 2 hours.
It was definitely longer. I can tell you that.
Oh, my goodness. You were out there at Soldier Field, but it was just fun to see every aspect of the team function and look like a well-coached football team. And I don't know how it's going to look during the regular season. It all depends on performance by the players, who's healthy, but they certainly look through two preseason games like a well-coached football team. And I can't remember the last time I've seen that. Has anyone been griping about the Bears coaching on social media the last two games? I haven't seen it. You know, Bears Twitter is how Chicago sports Twitter is. I haven't seen it. So, again, it's day to day here with everybody, certainly in this city of sports fans. But for one night, it sure was fun.
Yeah, it was definitely fun. Obviously, the big caveat, obviously, is that it was a preseason game, but still, it's good to see as opposed to the alternative, right? If it didn't look good against the backups, I can't imagine what we would be talking about today. But
right,
yeah, we'll break it all down for you folks. If you're listening on the podcast, thanks so much for listening to us. If you're on the live stream right now, thanks so much for joining us live. If you have any questions, any comments you want to talk about Sunday night's game, or if you want to, break down the past week, the joint practice on Friday, we'll be talking with you folks here for the next, 45 minutes or so. So thanks for all her chiming in. Robert's in town. He's saying, hey, good to get Robert here. So let's talk about that game on Sunday. And the biggest thing was that Caleb Williams was making his first start of the preseason. A lot of the starters also made their first starts. And that first drive is exactly, I feel like that first drive for the Bears is a culmination of the past, I would want to say like the past 2 weeks of what we've seen from Caleb, where, the installs are done. They went through 12 days of installs, and now they're honing it in more, and they're making it look more comfortable, like doing what Caleb is able to execute. They threw a lot at him. They splashed them with the bucket of water, whatever you want, whatever analogy you want to use. And now they're kind of bringing it in. And I think you saw, Joe, how comfortable Caleb can be in this offense, right? Like first play, throwing it right to Colston Loveland on the sideline, getting a nice completion, finding Cole Kmet on the next play, and then, moving the ball down the field. I think you saw, even if it's against the backups, the biggest thing for me was, how does the operation look? Does he look comfortable? And that first drive, Caleb just looked comfortable, right? Like he just seemed like he understood what he was supposed to do. He placed the ball perfectly most of the time, and that was pretty much what you wanted to see in his first preseason drive.
Exactly. I mean, we've been talking about this since camp opened. Let's just see them break the huddle. Everyone get lined up correctly, be in the right position. No one false start, and run a football play and deliver the ball on time. And we saw a lot of that last night, which was, again, nice to see. We saw open receivers. We saw Caleb hitting receivers in stride. We saw a push from the offensive line. And I tell you what, one play that won't get talked about, and it wasn't a good play because it was an incompletion, but the play where, I don't know if it broke down or what happened, but he kind of did a little spin and he just spiked it on an incompletion. To me, a year ago, I don't know if he makes that play. Maybe he tries to scramble some more. All of a sudden, it's a 10-yard sack, and now you're really in trouble. So I think you could tell they've been working with him on those things, like boom, 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 throw it. Boom, 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 throw it. Whether it was under center or shotgun, it just looked completely different. And I don't care if it was against the Woodstock JV team. I mean, it looked like like they had a plan of what they were doing. So I will take it. And hey, look, Buffalo, I know they rested all their starters and so forth. That's still a team that's in the Super Bowl conversation again this year. And, they're back, good teams. It's not just the stars, it's their depth. So to do it against the Buffalo Bills, it's not the Cleveland Browns you were playing last night. It was the Buffalo Bills. They're still the Buffalo Bills.
Yeah, and I saw after the game, Sean McDermott had some comments, and he was kind of hard on his team, where he was like, "Listen, I know the starters didn't start, like still were, like you said, he didn't say Super Bowl team, but they are a Super Bowl team, and you expect the second and third and fourth string team." So I was kind of surprised by the shutout, but yeah, like you said, it just looked good, right? Like you saw Caleb make the easy throws. You didn't see him try to force things. I agree with you that incompletion that he had on that second drive where the screen just broke down, like he just tossed it. He was like, all right, like live to fight another day. And I agree. I think that's growth where you're seeing him make those decisions and he's realizing it's not worth it to me, or not that it's not worth it, but like it's just a net zero probably if you try to make something out of that. And I think that's growth, right? You want to see him make those type of things. It's fun when he makes the scrambles and he makes like the crazy throws or whatever, but a lot of the times last year it led to sacks or incompletions, or it just didn't lead to a lot of success, and that's not really good for your quarterback to get into a routine like that. So yeah, I agree. Really good stuff from Caleb. He went for where he threw for 107 yards. Completed 6 of his 10 pass attempts. They went 2 drives. First drive, obviously, he completed a short pass to Olamide Zaccheaus, who I think is going to be a really big playmaker on this offense. He's going to be that 3 or 4 guy that is just going to be open sometimes, like you saw in that touchdown, and he's just going to take it and run with it. We've seen that the entire training camp, and he's going to be a really good weapon for this team this season. But scored on the touchdown. Then the second drive, I think that second drive they were trying to get the run going a little bit more. DeAndre Swift didn't start. Kyle Monangai didn't play. Roshan Johnson is injured, so Deion Hankins got the start there and got a couple runs. So it kind of slowed down after a first down, and Rome could have maybe caught that third down pass. Caleb took credit for that and said I should have placed it better. But I do think that after 2 drives, you had to be pretty encouraged by what you saw, with all the context, obviously, from what this game was.
Yeah, and then the Tyson Bagent show starts, and he was great again. So I think they joked during the broadcast about, is there a QB controversy in Chicago? Like, let's not even go there. Don't even go there right now. Good for Tyson Bagent.
There's no town that loves a backup quarterback more than Chicago. If there is no town that loves a backup quarterback conversation.
Because they're only the starters bad. But I'll say this about Tyson Bagent. I didn't know if you had it on your agenda to talk about this morning, but at least he looks like a competent quarterback who could, and again, he showed it 2 years ago, his rookie season when Justin Fields was on. He went 2-2. Not that it's all, on him. Certainly, like any game, it's not always on the quarterback. But he certainly looked like, everyone's been talking about being on time, get the ball, know where it's going. And he had some not great moments, but he had a lot of great moments last night. So, and then even Austin Reed got in there. And I think the one consistency, Michael, and you could tell me this better from your eye in the press box, guys were open all the time. It's like quarterbacks, all 3 of them look like they knew what they were doing. Look for this guy. If he's not open, look for the other guy. And the second guy was open, and it was quick. And man, I have not seen that in Chicago in a long time. So that was fun. I mean, they looked good in the preseason last year too. I do remember that. Then, we know what happened during the regular season, but it was, again, a lot of fun to watch that offense last night. And, we'll see what it looks like in 3 weeks. 3 weeks from today, right? Season opener against the Vikings. And Ben Johnson mentioned something last night in the postgame about kind of I don't know if he didn't use the word tune-up, but about just to get that feel of here's what it's going to look like a night game at Soldier Field, and kind of get that same mentality going, prep. Because the Bears were certainly ready, and Sean McDermott is probably saying about his team, like, I don't care who we're playing, whether it's preseason or who's second string, first starters, third string, doesn't matter. Let's be ready to compete. And the Bears, what we've seen early on, at least, whether it's during the scrimmages against opponents on the Friday or the games here, they look ready to compete.
Yeah, they definitely do. And I think you really have to be encouraged, like you mentioned, all the different aspects of what that looks like, with Bagent. I've said, I've thought from the beginning of training camp that he's looked the most comfortable out of all the quarterbacks. Obviously, I'm not here to start a competition and say that he should be the starter, but I think you have to be like Robert mentioned in our comments, if Bagent has to step in during the season, I'll be confident. I would entirely agree. I think that, you don't want to be in the world where Caleb Williams is hurt or anything like that, but I think Bagent has shown you that he completely understands this offense. He knows where the ball is supposed to be. He knows the timing of it all. He knows every single play. He's not. I don't think it's rude to say that. Obviously he's not as talented as Caleb. Caleb was the number one pick, and Tyson was an undrafted free agent that the Bears found. But I do think that you have a game manager in Bagent that if something happens, you feel really confident in his ability to do that. And Bagent said after the game, like, this is my time to shine. After like the preseason, like I don't like not that he doesn't want to be in there, but like it's Caleb's show. He should be in it. Everything is going great if Caleb is the one who's doing everything. And I think that speaks volumes about Bagent, right? Like where he knows what his role is on this team. He knows what he needs to do. And he really prepares himself. So I was really encouraged by that. I really liked what Bagent said there and just what he's been able to do. Robert brings up another really interesting comment where I wasn't in the press conference room at this time when the question was asked, but I listened later. And Ben Johnson emphatically said it had nothing to do with scheming, and it was all the players going full speed. That's how to get your players on your side. And I would agree with that because in a preseason game, it's pretty vanilla, right? Like you're not going crazy with your scheming and your game planning and all that sort of stuff. But I do agree with Robert where that's a good way to get players on your side. And that's a good way to boost their spirits, right? Like you are giving them the motivation of like, hey, if you run this play, this basic play that we're running and you run it well and you're going to get open. And I think that's really encouraging, right? Where you're finding, like you said, Joe, DJ Moore is getting open for a first down. Rome's getting open for an opportunity, right? Zacchaeus, like Colston, Komet, like all these different guys are getting open and you're seeing all these different weapons. So I agree. There wasn't much scheming yesterday. Obviously it's a preseason game. It's pretty vanilla at this point, but I did agree with Robert that, when he was asked about that, Ben could say something about that, but instead he chose to, play up his players. And I think that's kind of shown you what we talked about earlier about how, coaching matters. And it really is important to see how this coaching staff is, trying to boost this team and kind of give it the confidence it needs heading into the season.
Yeah, it's the old line, practice makes perfect. No, it's perfect practice makes perfect. And the culture has been established since day one, since he really got here, when he challenged the players, like, be ready to be, I'm paraphrasing, challenged like you've never been challenged before. That all matters. And he's lived up to his part, Ben Johnson. And again, we'll see. We'll see when it starts to become real 3 weeks from tonight against Minnesota. But everything I've seen so far, and you're there every day at Hallis. You can speak better to this than me, but everything looks right so far. There's been no red flags yet. Doesn't mean they won't be a 7-win team again. They better not be a 7-win team again, or a 5-win team, even worse. But it looks right from every aspect, including defensively. We can talk about that whenever. But Dennis Allen, that's a difference maker right there defensively, because that unit looks different.
Yeah, they do look different, and they played. The starters played only in one series. Obviously, Josh Allen didn't start for the Bills.
Right.
So defense forced a 3 and out. Jervon Dexter and Tremaine Edmonds on the first play got through a couple blocks and made a nice a stop on a rush to get a loss of a yard. Then you had an incompletion, 2 false starts for the Bills, and another incompletion on a little bit of a quick screen rush. So 3 and out, pretty easy. When it comes to the defense, I'm more interested in, talking about Friday, Friday's joint practice against the Bills. And that was a really interesting moment because I for both the offense and the defense, I think you saw both good and bad. And starting with the defense, like they started off well in 7-on-7s. I think they got the best of Josh Allen a couple times. I know Kevin Byard had an interception during 7-on-7s. But then in your in team drills in 11-on-11, Josh Allen showed why he's the reigning MVP. And I was telling a couple people over the weekend and even at Friday's practice where you see an MVP player on TV and you're like, oh, this looks good. And then you see it in person and you're like, oh, this is what it's supposed to look like. Like, this is how someone effectively runs the offense, gets the ball out quickly, moves. Like, it just looks different. And it was really impressive to watch. And I think the defense held its own. I think Josh Allen picked up a bunch of yards. He had a 10, 15, 20-yard completions. He did pretty well in the red zone and during the 2-minute situational drill. So defensively speaking, Sunday was good. And then I thought Friday, you saw good and bad. I think you saw a secondary that is a little bit depleted right now and maybe got a little bit taken advantage of. The pass rush didn't go in as much as we probably wanted to be going at this point. But I agree with your point, Joe, where this defense is aggressive. It's going to attack and it's going to push. And I was encouraged by what I saw yesterday, and I was really encouraged by what I saw on Friday, just because you're going against a Super Bowl contender. That is a top 5, top 2 offense in the league, and you held your own for the most part. They got theirs, and you got some of yours at some point. So I think you have to be pretty encouraged about where this defense is at this point. There's still questions. I still am worried about that secondary depth, especially with Terrell Smith's, really bad-looking injury yesterday. Like, still got to figure out that secondary depth without Jalen Johnson for the foreseeable future. Maybe he'll be back. But I do think you have to be encouraged by the defense and what you saw at this point.
Yeah, I think Dennis Allen's going to find a way to get pressure. I think, in years past here, they just keep rushing forward and hope someone gets through. Well, there's different ways to scheme. And I think Dennis Allen, you're already seeing it. Whether it's the backups, teams' backups, second stringers, third stringers, some starters, they're finding a way to get everyone involved. You're noticing different guys a lot of times on different plays. Now, Austin Booker's been, playing like, Dan Hampton in his prime these last 2 games. But we're just seeing a lot of different guys contribute. It really stinks about Terrell Smith. It looks like it could be a knee. Hopefully you'll find out more, today or next couple of days here, I'm sure. But that's tough because you never have enough corners. You can have 10 corners on your roster and it's not enough. So they got to find another guy to step up. And, getting back to, the Bills didn't play their starters last night. They didn't play Josh Allen. That's the one. You can forget about the rest of the starters. I know they're good. They're all competent. James Cook and Shakir, they didn't play without Josh Allen. So, that makes all the difference. That's why it's so important, as we know, to find the franchise quarterback, because that game, certainly, even if you just count the first half, it's the Bears were, was it 36-0 at halftime, whatever it was, 38. That's not the score, as we know, if Josh Allen just plays 2 series.
Sure.
So take it for what it's worth. But we're not talking about Buffalo really. But defensively, they just look, don't they, Michael? Compared to last year, they just look different. Scheme wise, more active. They look coached up. It's probably the simplest way to put it.
Yeah, I agree. They do look coached up. And, like you said, it's the preseason. We'll see how things kind of go once they kind of get things going. But I would agree. I think you're seeing, listen, Dennis Allen's defense is aggressive, and he's going to hit you with a bunch of different fronts. He loves moving people up and down the line of scrimmage. He moves Dio in and out. Talking last week, I had a story about Javon Dexter and how he can benefit kind of in this defense. And, there's going to be a 5-man front sometimes. Like, they are going to put 5 guys on the line of scrimmage and just be like, hey, one-on-one matchups, stop us, right? Like, I think that's going to be really interesting, and it's going to be hard to keep up with sometimes. And I think you've seen so far, Montez Sweat has had a good training camp. Dio has had, hit or miss moments sometimes. I think he's flashed a little bit. Grady Jarrett, he's just he's so hard to stop. He's a proven veteran. He knows exactly what he's doing. I think you have to be encouraged by it. I'm just really interested to see, can this happen in the regular season? And can you have enough depth in that situation? We'll talk a little bit more about the injuries later, but Austin Booker left the game yesterday. Dominique Robinson left the game yesterday. Those are 2 key guys that are going to be part of your rotation if you're going to be a pass rushing. So I'm really interested in that. I don't know if we talked about this. the last time we talked, but Kyler Gordon, he's week to week with an injury here. I think it was a hamstring injury that's been reported. And that's a huge injury. They obviously paid him over the offseason. He's your nickel. He moves all over this defense. He can play at the line of scrimmage. He can play back in coverage. He can play outside. He can play inside. He is a versatile Swiss Army knife for you. And your defense is worse without him, right? I don't think that's any disrespect to the defense, but it's just worse without him. He's just that great of a phenomenal player and a playmaker. And I've been impressed. Nick McLeod came in this week. He's played the nickel this week, and I think he played it well. He kind of blew up that second play on Sunday, and I think he's done really well. So I think obviously you want Kyler Gordon back as soon as possible. They're hoping to have him back before the end of training camp or toward the end of training camp. But I think you're encouraged by what you're seeing from Nick McLeod. And Josh Flacco, they're really encouraged by him too in that nickel position. But that'll be interesting to watch as they kind of try to figure out who they have in the secondary. But that's going to be a really important part of this defense, right, Joe? Just the stickiness of this defense and who's able to make plays in man-to-man coverage.
Yeah, I mean, if they're healthy, that's a pretty good secondary with Gordon and Brisker and Jalen Johnson. Tyreek Stevenson, I think he looks like he's certainly being capable of being a reliable corner in this league. So, but guys start going down like Terrell Smith all of a sudden. But you know what? That's going to be every team in the league. There's no team that goes through a whole season injury free. That's where you got to rely on your depth, your drafting, the guys you bring in as undrafted free agent guys. Not that they got to start 17 games, but can they plug in and fill and make it not so noticeable? No one's going to have 11 all pros on defense. No team ever. So not even the great Steelers teams. They almost did it in the 70s. That's another story for another day. But not even for another day. But regardless, you know what I mean. So there's going to be weak spots, whether it's the secondary at linebacker inside. But that's why coaching matters, and that's why you really need depth, and you need the guys who are your depth pieces to be ready to contribute. Like you need to find the Tyson Bagent guys on defense who really know what they're doing and are ready to plug in. And they might be a backup the whole season, but if they get an opportunity to play, you got to be ready and you can't miss a beat.
Yeah, for sure. Wanting to wrap up some game coverage here. Robert asked, how come Swift wasn't playing with the first teamers? I'm not really sure. Ben Johnson wasn't asked about that. He was asked about Kyle Monangai. And if I remember correctly, Ben Johnson said that a little nicked up from Friday, but he wasn't too concerned about it. Wasn't asked about Swift. I thought that was a little bit interesting. That could be just like Joe Tooney didn't play on Sunday either. Obviously, Joe is an all-pro 10-year plus veteran. He knows how to get ready for an NFL game. So I'm not worried about that at all. The DeAndre Swift thing was a little bit interesting, but I mean, he's done it. I think you just want to, the reps and snaps are really important with this coaching staff. They keep emphasizing that. And he maybe just reached his limit with that, or they were just like, we saw enough on Friday. There's no need, like, as you saw yesterday, there's no need to risk injury for your starting running back. Roshan Johnson's already out. Kyle Monangai is dealing with some stuff. You can't be without your top three running backs heading into the season. So, that was a little bit of a surprise, but I wasn't too concerned about that. Like we mentioned earlier, Terrell Smith's injury didn't look good. It was a knee injury. Coach Johnson after the game said, it was a concerning moment and didn't look good. They're hoping for the best with him. Booker suffered a knee injury on a special teams play. Dominic Robinson had a right ankle sprain. Running back Deion Hankins had a knee injury. And wide receiver J.P. Richardson had ankle injuries. All of them were out or doubtful to return. So, listen, it's kind of hard because you want to play these games, but also, like, if you lose a lot of those guys, like, you lose a lot of depth in those different important spots. So, I guess Sunday was also kind of a reminder that maybe sometimes it's not worth getting mad about not playing because you never know what's going to happen in the game.
Yeah, some of those guys, like, I'm not concerned about. Like, if they can't play or they have to go on the injured list. Dominic Robinson, but Booker's the one. I hope that was just like, what? Let's not take any chances. The game's over. You just what's the point here? I hope that's all it is. Because man, if he's out for an extended period of time, now that is concerning, considering how good he's looked and the upside we've seen going back to last year, and certainly he's flashed in the preseason here. So that's the one I'm concerned about. Terrell Smith, it just doesn't look encouraging. Maybe we'll get some surprising good news from him, but those are the two big ones. Swift, I don't know if he's hurt or not. I hope not, because if he's not ready to go, I have no confidence in those other guys being a guy you can give the ball to 20 times a game. Running backs, guys always pop up out of nowhere. You see it all the time in the league. So maybe there's one of those guys. But the other guys, though, I mean, I wish we could have seen Monungai last night. But the guy I really like is Ian Booker. And the other kid, Brown, was it Devin Brown?
Britton Brown.
Pardon?
Britton Brown.
Yeah.
Ian Wheeler and Britton Brown.
Yeah, and I like Wheeler. I mean, I liked him last year until he tore the ACL, right? He looked good. So I just think he runs hard. He looks for holes. He just doesn't go up the middle and hope there's a hole. I'm not a scout. I never coached running backs. I never played running back, but he certainly looks good. I hope he makes the roster. I think that running back depth there is going to be interesting to see who makes the football team, assuming everyone's healthy. Because I don't know, Michael. I mean, this is getting close to cut-down day here. I know we got 3 weeks, but I mean, is Roschon Johnson? Is his roster spot in jeopardy, or am I overblowing that?
I don't know if it's in jeopardy. I mean, obviously he's injured. I think when he was healthy, they used him in the goal line situation, and he showed you that he can do that. Like, there was a good day, probably 3 weeks into camp, 2 weeks into camp. I don't know where we are at this point in terms of time, but where they ran a bunch of goal line situations, and he scored on a majority of his on his carries. So I think that that's a big part of what he does well. And I think that, not that DeAndre Swift can't do it, but I think that's just Roschon Swift's, part of it. And, you need as many running backs as you can. So I'm not worried about Roschon Johnson being cut at this point. I mean, maybe if the injury is bad and toe injury, and maybe Brian Poles is like, listen, like, this is a consistent thing. Obviously it was something that he had to dealt with his rookie season and last year, but I wouldn't be too worried about that, and I wouldn't be too worried about DeAndre Swift. The Bears didn't announce an injury or anything like that. I really do think that's just a precautionary thing. You got 2 of your top 3 running backs injured. You don't need your top 3 running backs injured. Like, all respect Ian Wheeler and Dean Hankins and all these different guys, but you need your top running back to be ready in order for the offense to reach its full potential. I want to wrap up some things here about the game and then get to the main topic that we got to talk about here. We saw, where was this comment? I saw it, and there it is. Robert talked about Luther Burden blocking on those 2 touchdown rounds. Gotta love it. I think Luther Burden is showing you why he was a 2nd-round pick and why the Bears jumped at him. It has, he missed most of the spring, and so maybe the playbook isn't exactly where it needs to be, and Ben Johnson's been honest about that, but I mean, he looks like a dog, right? Like, he looks like he can play. I think those 2 runs are really important lessons where he's showing you that he understands Ben's mantra. If you're not going to, block, you're not going to get the rock. Those are good examples of him buying into the system, because you need Luther Burden out there. And if he's going to be doing stuff like that, like, that's going to be a very deadly, weapon for Caleb, especially if he's like your 3rd or 4th wide receiver out there.
I think he's showing that he's playing like he should have been a 1st-round pick. I mean, that's how good he's looked. And I'm glad, Greg Olsen is so good at his job. I'm glad he brought, and they pointed out the 2 blocks on the short yardage TDs where he really almost pancaked the guy, pushed him back 3 yards. Twice he did that. And then the catches, right? The one little cool move on the sideline there to gain like another 10 yards, whatever it was. Boy, he looks really sharp. I keep wanting to say Muhsin Muhammad when I see 87 up there. But he looks really good. And again, the weapons, I mentioned it last week when we did the podcast, Michael. Get the ball in the hands of these guys, and they're going to make things happen. It's just not going to be catch the ball and go down, or there's pass right there, and they should have caught it and it wasn't caught, and now it's 3rd and 10, and now you're scrambling again. Guys, those guys, there's so many weapons now. Like DJ Moore is almost like option 3, and he should be your number 1 wide receiver. But between among DJ Moore and Adunze and the tight ends, Komet, they all contributed last night. Luther Burden, and then Olamide Zacchaeus. I mean, what a great! I know he's had a great camp. That touchdown was spectacular. Again, it wasn't just a guy getting him the ball and then he falls down and he's tackled. I mean, he made that touchdown last night. I mean, there's so many weapons now. Just get the ball in their hands. Even the first play of the game, that little, naked bootleg to, Caleb to Loveland. He catches the ball. He's a big, strong dude. He almost gets the first down. I mean, just simple things like that. I don't know if, we can go back to the history of the bad tight ends they've had on this football team and guys who they threw the ball to way more than we thought they'd ever get the ball during a season. There's a long list of those guys too. But gosh, there are so many weapons on this team. I don't think Caleb has to be brilliant to be able to move this football team down the football field.
No, you definitely don't. And that's obviously what Brian Poles' goal was this season, right? Or off season, just to give him as many weapons, get the ball out, and have your playmakers make plays. And I think Luther Burden, like you mentioned, is going to be a big guy who's going to be able to do that. Sports Chicago style chiming in. Luke Newman looks like a dude. I think he did look good. I think, the Bears are trying him out in a lot of different spots. He started off at left guard. Then he moved over to right guard. They started him at center at the beginning of camp. It didn't look great. Some of the snaps were just off. But I think Luke Newman, as a 6th-round pick, would be a really nice depth piece for you on the offensive line. I think that'd be really good to have a versatile guy who can just move up and down the line. So, I would agree. I think Luke Newman looked good. Craven Moore. I'm not going to finish that. Triple R. Scott had a TD. Tyler Scott obviously is the podcast #1 Bear. High and low for Tyler Scott. He caught that touchdown, but then he opened the game with a bobbled kickoff. I did not like that. Devin Duvernay, Ben Johnson said, was dealing with a little bit of something before game, so they're just precautionary and didn't want to put him out there. Devin Duvernay, I assume, is your kick returner at this point. But some good, some bad from Tyler Scott. Chicago sports style, St. Brown runs hard and has nice feet. I would agree with that. Homer, roster spot, that's a little bit tough. He's been injured at this point. Last week and a half, I think. You need guys out there, obviously, but we'll see what that kind of looks like with them and whether he can get back onto the field. But we've got roughly 10 minutes left on the podcast, and I wanted to use the last part of the podcast to talk about the elephant in the room, and that's obviously the left tackle competition. Ben Johnson kind of made some headlines on Friday when he said that there's no clear leader at this point. Like they're 3.5 weeks into this thing, and they just haven't found a leader. Braxton Jones has been up and down, coming back from an ankle injury. Theo Benedict has, been thrown into the competition now. He got a lot of first-team snaps. Ozzie Trapillo is now working exclusively at right tackle. Kieran Amagaji is getting the left tackle spots. Joe, just in general, we'll get more specific into this with each guy, but are you surprised and are you worried at all that they still don't have a leader in this left tackle competition?
Well, I think the big news of the week regarding that is the move to right tackle for Ozzie Trapillo. They're saying, look, he just looks more comfortable at right tackle, so basically he's on to the running for the starting left tackle. That's concerning because, did they blow this? You don't need a right tackle. It's too late to be switching Darnell Wright to left tackle. You got to figure that out, before camp started, that you're going to try that experience. But so that to me is that's not good. As far as Braxton Jones, look, if he's healthy, we know what you got. He's serviceable. And that's, again, you don't need 5 all-pro guys on your offensive line. You can get by with one who's just okay, even though it is left tackle. But I think if he's healthy, and I think what they're trying to do is push him a little more. Because I think they see, I think what I've been seeing with this coaching staff is they're going to try to get the maximum. They want every guy to reach their ceiling here. I mean, I know every coach does, but I think they're pushing Braxton Jones. It seems like they're pushing the right buttons. Who is it? Dan Rochar, their O-line coach, was saying they're first maybe was talking about I don't know if it was the preseason game last week, but we see good, and then the second part of that, the next series, whatever, not so good. We see you need to be consistent at all levels, and they're not going to let them get away with it. And I don't know if other coaching staffs in the past did, but I like what they're trying to do here. So I think Braxton Jones, with the ankle's healthy, he's the man. You know what you got there. I wouldn't go into the season screaming like, oh my gosh, we're going to be exposed at left tackle. The other kid, Benedict, I know he's making for a nice story, but do you want him as your left tackle? Maybe. I mean, good for the kid. Maybe he's got an opportunity, but maybe if Braxton Jones isn't healthy, you got this kid who's like ready to step in and again, be serviceable. That'll work. You're not going to find an all-pro left tackle on the market at this point in the season. You're 3 weeks away, and left tackles, I mean, it's one of the most coveted position you want on your football team, right? Quarterbacks, DN, left tackle. So it is what it is at this point. This is what they got. And if they want to, keep Trapillo on the right side and then maybe work. I mean, let's not, it doesn't mean to say he's never going to be a left tackle in this league. Just maybe not week one or the first half of the season. Maybe they work on it. And I don't know if they're going to give him reps. They're still like once things get a little more cleared up of who's going to be the starter. But if he's a right tackle and that's where he's going to make his money in the NFL, well, you got a problem then because you're not moving Darnell Wright. So now what do you got? Unless, heaven forbid, Darnell Wright gets hurt. But that was, to me, the story of the week as far as the left tackle position is concerned.
Yeah, I want to hit on that a little bit more as we kind of wrap up here. But I would agree with you, Dan Rochar, and this whole coaching staff. I think that the common theme, and this is early, obviously it's still the preseason of their first year. That could change very quickly as the years go on. But this coaching staff is going to be brutally honest with its players, and they're pretty honest with us as like the media. Like during assistant coaches availability, like Rochar didn't mince words when it came to the competition, when it came to Braxton, when it came to Darnell Wright. Like he was kind of trying to light a fire and be like, hey, like when Darnell tries, he looks great, but like you just got to have that endurance. And I thought that was a really interesting comment. Like I thought Darnell has looked fine, right? Like through training camp, but I thought that was a really interesting comment. But I think on Sunday, Braxton looked good. He was going against the backups. Mm-hmm. He looked solid. He didn't get overmatched. I think maybe he got overmatched one time, but the play was going on a completely different direction from where he was. So it didn't cause any problems at all. On Friday, Theo Benedict got a majority of the first team snaps. Braxton got the 2-minute or the red zone snaps, and he came in during the move the ball drill halfway through. I agree. I think at this point, Braxton Jones is your starter if he's healthy. I talked to him yesterday, and I'm going to have a story out here later this afternoon about Braxton saying he's still trying to prove itself to him. Like if you're being honest, he's what, like half a year, 8 months removed from a ankles break like that. That's hard to come back from, right? Like, so I can understand like maybe he's not 100%, but I think at this point it's Braxton's job to lose. And, I think he's serviceable. Like you said, Joe, like I think he's going to protect. Sure. Is he going to get overmatched sometimes? Yes. I think that's just how it is at this point. Maybe he can develop a little bit more, but I do think at this point, Braxton is probably your likely starter, and maybe Karan or Theo can push him at this point. But I think if we're looking 3 weeks from now, I think Braxton is probably going to be your starter at left tackle.
Yeah, at least it was good to see Karan on the field last night. I didn't know if he was going to play or what. So looked like he got a fair share of snaps. So, I mean, that was encouraging too. I mean, it's too early to call him a bust, certainly, but you certainly want to see more, and you want to see, strides in year two, like all these guys from last year. You look at that draft class last year. I know there weren't a lot of picks, but Caleb, Rome, the punter's fine. You know what you got in him, but Booker, Amadaji, is that it? Is that the entire draft class from 2024?
That's the whole thing. It was a small one,
right? They all need to be better in 2025. That's that simple. All of them, and certainly Caleb. He's going to be better. But Rome too, he's got to be better, and that's what you expect, right? Year two. But Karan, at least he played last night, and maybe there's still some hope for him. I mean, he's not a cut casualty, I wouldn't think.
No.
Right? So, just keep getting him stronger and better.
Listen, Karan's been behind the 8 ball, right? Like he missed his entire offseason last year, getting as a rookie coming out of Yale. Like he wasn't healthy for much of last. Like he was dealing with stuff. And then this training camp, like he missed a week and a half of training camp because of another leg injury. So, I mean, if this guy, like, you want Karan to succeed, he just has to stay on the field. And
Yep.
I think he flashes like good stuff for you. He just needs to stay on the field to kind of listen. He's a smart kid. He can be your swing tackle. He can go both ways, I think, and he can grasp the situation really well. He just needs to stay healthy and really focus in. And I think that maybe he'll get an opportunity if it's presented to him. Talking about Ozzie, I'm not 4 weeks into his rookie training camp. I'm not here to call him a bust. He's not a bust. He's got a lot of development. He's got a lot of time. Like I'm not at all calling him out or anything like that. I recognize that he's a rookie and that, there's plenty of room to grow and he's still developing a lot. Are you at all upset now with the pick in the second round though? If he's your right tackle, is that a good use of the pick then? If Ozzie ends up being a right tackle for you, like, do you know what I mean? And like, there's still a lot of, he has this entire career ahead of him. So like this 4 weeks aren't going to determine how good or bad he's going to be by any means. But if it does turn out to be that Ozzie's your right tackle, was that a good use of the pick? And should Ryan Poles have gone someone else at that point?
Yes. I mean, I think that's fair. And I think that's something that's fair to evaluate or be, I don't know, skeptical, but it's certainly worth being a little concerned about because, again, they traded down from that pick. Were they at 39 back in the draft?
Once their running back came off the board, they were like, okay, we're going to trade down.
Yeah. There was still the Ursary kid out of Minnesota. There were running backs still there. And they wanted to be, let's accumulate draft picks. Okay, well, you better get it right then. So if he's a right tackle, again, that's not saying, maybe he'll be an all-pro tackle. Maybe it won't be with this team. I don't know. Unless something happens to Darnell Wright. You're not doing anything with Darnell Wright. So that wasn't the plan. Let's draft a right tackle after we drafted one, 10th overall the year before, right? The year before. Right. No. So that's, again, it's 1 week. We haven't even played one game yet. And again, maybe they're like, let's focus on right tackle for now, maybe swing tackle, but you're not good enough. You're number 3 then, as far as in the running for the left tackle position behind Braxton Jones and the Benedict kid. So
I don't think he might not even be in it. I mean, he didn't get left tackle snaps like Karan got the third team snap. I think at this point, Ozzie's out of the competition. That could change tomorrow. Based on, they could put him back in. They're like, all right, we took a week. He was in right tackle exclusively. Now we're going to put him back in the left tackle competition. But I mean, if you're trying to get as many snaps and let him develop as much as possible, wouldn't you have put him in the game yesterday at left tackle just to see what he can do? Like, I thought that was an interesting thing.
Yeah, he's too tall to be a guard, right? If one of the guards went down, heaven forbid, Jonah Jackson or Tooney, I mean, he's not going to play guard. So if this is what he is, a right tackle, shame on the Bears. They messed that up, and again, they're not going to get every pick right, but even the other kid they took in the second round, Turner, right? Yeah. Shamir Turner. Have we seen him yet? Is he, I don't even know. Did he play last night?
So Chicago Sports Style asked the question too. I was surprised, I was getting ready for Bill's joint practice on Friday and I'm looking at who was warming up and I had to do a double take and be like, is that 95? Like that's, Shamar Turner's been out with an ankle injury since the first day of training camp. He suffered it on the first day of camp. He was out there. He did not, he is doing individual drills. He took care of some stuff over the past few days, but he hasn't seen team activities and he obviously didn't play in yesterday's game. Obviously that's a ramp up. He's missed 4 weeks. He's got to get a little bit into shape, but so it'll be interesting to see what happens there. But just to wrap things up, I think this left tackle thing is very interesting because Ben Johnson made it very clear that this competition can go on for a while. He said he's very comfortable with it going on for the rest of training camp. He's comfortable but for it going through the rest of the bye week. Like it could be like a season-long thing. He did say he's not going to be rotating guys in. Like he's not going to be doing that. But the competition is going to continue to happen here as long as it takes to figure out who is the best person to start. So it'll be interesting to see because I agree with you. Obviously, you've boosted your line. It looks a lot better. But you need to figure out that spot just for consistency's sake, right? Like you need someone to be there in the left tackle spot consistently. So Joe Tooney knows the how his left partner acts and like what his tendencies are and that sort of stuff. Like that is important. And that is what stops a lot of false starts. That is what causes a lot of issues, right? So I think, Robert mentioned this in his comment, sounded from the presser, sounded like the tape from yesterday is going to determine who's the starter. I think it's going to be very influential. I think Friday's joint practice will be very influential as well. But I think you eventually do kind of need to make a decision here because you got to get this unit going consistently with one group as the season's going, because you can't just keep mismatching at this point. You need one guy to be consistently working with the first team, because week one against Brian Flores' defense, you can't have a situation where you're putting like a guy like Kiran Namagaji in there and be like, hey, figure it out against Brian Flores in front of a national audience. Like, you can't have that happen. You can't put anyone in that situation, right? Like, you gotta have a situation as ready to go as possible at that point.
Yeah, and that's why I've said since day one that if Braxton Jones is healthy, he's your starter. At least he's seen it. I mean, he's been in the league. Was this year 4 for him now?
Yeah, year 3. Yeah, year 4.
Right?
Yeah.
So he's the guy. And again, he'll be serviceable. But, it's like, and we can't get caught up. It's like any roster, baseball, NHL. It doesn't matter who. Here's another sports cliche. It doesn't matter who starts and who finishes. You might make the opening day roster and you might be a starter, but that could change like in the second half. You got to perform, and if you're not performing, the next guy comes up. And if you're really bad for a couple of weeks, they're going to do something and they're going to bring up someone from the practice squad. It's going to be continually proven every week for the younger guys in particular, not just the rookies. So. That's the case there. You just hope he's healthy, because if he's not, I guess it's going to be Benedict at left tackle. That would concern me. It would concern me if, like I said in the past, it would concern me if Ozzie was the starting left tackle, putting a rookie up against that Brian Flores defense on week 1 at left tackle, no less. I wouldn't feel great about that. So let's hope Braxton Jones is, fingers crossed, is good enough to go and figure out the rest during the season, and hope he just stays healthy and he does what he's done the last 3 years.
Yeah, it'll be very interesting to watch. To his credit, like Pro Football Focus has graded him well. Like, obviously, when you watch the tape, it hasn't looked great. Like, obviously, he gets overmatched sometimes, but we'll see how that looks. All right, guys, we're gonna wrap up. If you have any final questions, comments, drop them in the chat here before we say goodbye. Bears are off today. They're off on Monday. They're going to practice on Tuesday and Wednesday. They'll be off on Thursday, and then they play Friday night against the Kansas City Chiefs in their preseason finale. Then we'll obviously have cut down week next week. I forget what day specifically in the week it is, but it will be sometime next week. Ben Johnson hasn't. Obviously, we don't know whether Caleb and the players are going to play on Friday. I wouldn't be surprised if they go in for a series, but I wouldn't expect it. I don't know. We'll see. We'll learn more from Ben Johnson on Wednesday when we hear from him. But Joe, two practices left, and then you play Kansas City on Friday. We'll talk to you folks on Friday morning before that game, but what are you kind of hoping to kind of learn here over the next couple of days before we get to that preseason finale?
Well, first and foremost, I think is the injury status of Terrell Smith and Austin Booker. That's what I'm waiting to hear next. After that, whether it's good news or bad news, I don't know. Just continue to play hard and take advantage of every day. It's all the cliche stuff, but then get ready and get healthy. If guys need, Braxton Jones needs to rest to get the ankle stronger, it's good, so be it. That's the most important thing, and keep doing what they're doing, because they certainly seem like they're on the right trajectory, right? With the offense and the defense. And then come Friday night, I'm guessing Caleb and the starters aren't going to play, but are we going to go the whole preseason without DeAndre Swift seeing the field? Maybe he gets on the field. I don't know.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see how Ben handles this. Obviously, he's very snaps heavy. They have a very sports science way of handling this. Like, they're trying to maximize the most amount of snaps and that sort of stuff. So it'll be interesting to see how they watch. Chicago Sports asking a good question here before we say goodbye. Is JJ running around yet? Jalen Johnson. He did take part in early warmups on yesterday, like way before, like not warm-ups like in uniform, but just like, when guys were stretching 2 hours before the game and doing some stuff. He was out there getting some work. And so that has to be really encouraging to see. They're hoping to get him ready for that game week 1 against the Vikings. Obviously, Jordan Addison isn't going to be playing. I know that Jordan Jefferson has been dealing with an injury during camp, but I mean, you need Jalen Johnson out there if you want this team to be out there competing at its highest level. So we'll get more of that. I think that's the biggest thing, right? Like you want to get an update on Jalen and Kyler, other guys who are injured, figure out where the left tackle competition is, and then see where Caleb is getting ready, and then start game planning for the Vikings, right? Like you've got a couple weeks to get ready for that Brian Flores defense to specifically come up with a game plan on Monday night. So it'll be interesting to watch, and we'll break it all down for you. But that's everything that we got for this week's episode. Thanks so much for joining us. If you're joining us on the live stream, thank you to everyone who commented. It was good to get your guys' comments and questions, get you guys involved. If you didn't get a chance to join us live, make sure you check out the podcast, and make sure that you follow our social media. We always try to post at least a day before when we're going to be posting. We're hoping to be doing Monday and Friday from now on. Now we're going to get into a regular season schedule here. So we're hoping to be doing Monday and Friday mornings podcast. So if you guys know, we'll be doing at 10 a.m. We'll let you know if something else is happening, but we'll try to stay consistent with that sort of schedule. Make sure you're following Joe Aguilar. He's at Joe Aguilar 64 on Twitter. He's got you covered, obviously helping out with Bear stuff, but obviously everything else at the Northwest Herald. High school football is getting started, and all the other sports are getting started. So make sure you follow him there, and make sure you're following all of my Bears coverage as we kind of progress here through the final weeks of training camp and get ready for the start of the regular season. So thank you so much to everyone who joined us on the live stream. Thank you for listening to this podcast, and we will talk to you folks down the road.
See you.